look around until I found.
Hi everyone, welcome back to a video. Excuse the appearance. Basically, I haven't had my hair cut yet, the hairdressers are completely full, and we're going with this today because I can't see out my fringe. So I won't have my face on here for long because this is not nice, but I will be reacting to my GCSE art book today. This is the first one, so my first year. This was 4 years ago now. But yeah, I haven't really looked at it since, so I thought it'd be fun to kind of go through it, react to it a little bit, and explain a bit of why I did what, if I can remember. I got an A star in GCSE art, flex. Don't know how, honestly, looking, you know, at the state of this book alone is battered up to crap and not very nice looking, but we'll have a look at the inside in a minute. So yeah, maybe I can give you some tips and advice of what you can do if you're about to do your GCSE art. If not, have fun looking at cringy drawings. Alright. So when you do GCSE art, at least in the years that I did it, we were given a kind of theme for the whole year. So for this year, the theme was order and disorder, and we always had to start our books off with some sort of what are these called? Some sort of diagram to kind of talk about what we think order and disorder is, and how we'd want to portray it in our art, basically. Now, I know a lot of people decorate their art books really fancily and they look absolutely amazing. My second art book is a lot better than this. I really spent a lot of time in it, but this one, we were told that we shouldn't really decorate it at the time. Again, I didn't listen to that in the second year because I wanted to, so this isn't the most aesthetically pleasing book, but I learned a lot through it, which is good. So yeah, for here I kind of was thinking about flowers and how, you know, they were elegant, but they, you know, they died quite quickly kind of things, you know, I don't know, just life and death kind of things. That's kind of what I wanted to do for order and disorder. That's the first thing that came to my mind when I thought of it. This is just an experimental page. It's very bad. Again, I wasn't very familiar with traditional things, so I did a bunch of shading kind of things up here, and I tried to draw an onion. So this was the first part of when we started experimenting with different mediums. So here I obviously did pencil, we did coffee and ink here, and coffee and pencil. Now in year 1 of GCSE art, I was never very good at shading. My pencil skills were very bad because I never wanted to go too dark. That was the problem. I never used dark enough tones. So again, in the second year, I think I improved a lot on that. So I think if I were to look back at this and criticise it, it's all very flat and very 2D. There's not a lot to it. We experimented with drawing shells from life. Obviously the onions were also from life. Here I used biro pen. Biro pen was definitely my favourite kind of medium at the time. Then we used chalk, I believe, and then these two are coloured pencils, but I don't think they even show up on camera. Yeah, orange and blue shell. So also with GCSE art, if you don't know, you do have to evaluate kind of every piece you've done, even if it's like something stupid. So that's what all these are. I'm not going to go through all the writing, but feel free to pause and read it. As you can see here, we did peppers. I hope you can see that, otherwise I'm a failure. So again, I was experimenting a lot with different mediums. I wanted to kind of find the one that I really liked. So here, this was oil pastel, and boy, I can tell you, I absolutely hate oil pastels, and I still hate them to this day. As you can tell, I really didn't care for this. I rushed it, didn't want to do it. This one is chalk again, I believe. Problem is I'm left-handed, so I was smudging a lot. The best way to do that was like to put a piece of paper over it to avoid it, but that still didn't really work. It still smudged a lot. And then over here was ink. Now I really liked working with ink. I thought it was really fun. It was kind of like watercolor, but to me I found I could control it better and it was more opaque. So yeah, a bunch of different studies of peppers. Some more peppers and coloured pencil, and then some Chinese lanterns or phthalises. So this was in biro pen and once again pencil, but as you can see the tones really aren't dark enough. They're very 2D, very flat. So, and now we got onto flowers. Now, I do remember I still have my final piece upstairs. Flowers was my main topic I decided on doing, so I decided to do lilies most of all, and tulips. So again, I did some watercolour and biro here, I think. Some acrylic paint, biro. I actually quite like this. I did recreate this at one point in my 365 challenge actually, but I do prefer this version because the other one's digital. And experiment with some coffee backgrounds, some newspaper, different coloured biros. That was all quite fun. Now this was completely experimental, but this was actually quite fun. I'm quite happy I learnt this technique. This was lino printing. So, oh no, this wasn't the lino print. No, the lino print comes a bit later. This was kind of like lino print, but we used foam boards instead of like lino material. So if you don't know what that is, it's basically you carve out like a little block, ink it up and print it. So here are my designs, my sketches. I did a mixture of the peppers, the shells and the flowers that I'd done. Now what you have to bear in mind is that when you print it, the image flips, which I didn't know, so I drew it the right way around. So overall, the final one was flipped, the final print. I quite like it. It was the first time I'd ever done any sort of printing technique. Here I did some more, but I experimented with some layering of paper, so some yellow. I quite like this one actually, and a bit of artist study. This I never finished. As you can tell, I really didn't like doing artist studies. I got very bored of it, so I just did a quick Andy Warhol study of some flowers. Again, this was in biro pen. Paul Cézanne, I really tried on this piece. I really liked the first skull that I did. This was in acrylic, and then I ran out of time, so I kind of rushed these two, so it kind of ruined the whole thing. This is good though, you know, just cover those two up. Some more flowers, all in acrylic. I think acrylic was my favourite medium at the time, and it still is. I still like acrylic a lot. Mark Powell, he was a lot of fun. I love doing biro again, so Mark Powell mostly does biro kind of art. I believe I actually studied him again in my second book, so that'd be interesting to see. I did a flower composition here on top of some newspaper. And this was a bunch of experimentation, kind of with some background techniques, with inks and this kind of foam paint that we had. So it's kind of thick, layered texture. Can't say I like them very much, but it was fun experimenting. And a lot of that was inspired by Wassily Kandinsky. God, I can't say that. So it's very abstract kind of pieces. Here I recreated his piece in biro. I didn't paint it. Again, I was very lazy with this. Don't do what I did. Don't know how I managed to get an A star, but you know. Again, never finished this, but I started. I really wanted to paint like Mark Ryden at one point. I really liked the sound of oil paints, things like that, but we didn't have access to them at the point. In the first year, our art kind of studio was quite underfunded, so I started it in acrylic, absolutely hated it. We're very muddy. Again, I kind of ran out of time. A lot of this I rushed in the first year, so skip. Here we, oh yeah, we studied 3 different styles of painting. This was quite fun. So we did flat colour, we did pointillism, which I really liked, and we did heightened colour, which I also really liked. So flat colour is basically, as it seems, it's just one flat colour of kind of paint, no shading or anything. I didn't really like this. So for this study, I also did the same pepper for each of them. So this was flat colour, this was pointillism. Pointillism is literally dotting it, you know, every single little dot separately with different colours of paint to kind of get this, which I really liked. This one was a lot of fun. It did take me absolutely ages, you know, it took me days and days to do this, but I liked it at the time. Now I can't imagine doing this. And then heightened colour, which I actually really enjoyed. Heightened colour is basically just making things brighter and slightly different colours to what they are in real life. So this was my version of the pepper. Once again, my lily that I painted, inspired by Georgia O'Keeffe. If you know, you know. A very bad pepper that I rushed. Again, a lot of this I kind of went back at the end of my art and then stuck this all in afterwards because I realised I hadn't filled up my art book enough at the end of the year. Here I did some skull studies. This was using the same foam kind of lino technique, which I really didn't like, and then I did 2 in biro. This was the first one, this was the second. As you can see, I became a lot looser with my lines in this one. Well, this one's not too bad either, you know. but these are awful. I did some bones and some peacock feathers. Again, I didn't write anything about this because I got very lazy and bored with it. And this was the actual lino, so we actually got to use the proper lino stuff, and by then I'd learned that the image would flip. So before I didn't, obviously the image was always flipped and I didn't mean it to be flipped. Here I realised, okay, if I want it to look like this, I would trace it on tracing paper and then onto the lino. That way, when I printed it, it would be the right way around. This was a lot of fun. I experimented with a lot of different colours, kind of layering lots of paper, collage, doing 3 different versions of the print with different colours kind of stacked on top of each other. I like that one quite a lot. Lots more kind of experimenting with different colours and different inks. This is all a bit muddy. This one's alright. Here was another artist study, Coach Fitters. I was going to do a massive collage here with like a cool piece, but again, I got lazy, I got bored, and I never ended up finishing it. But here is a collage of my tulips that I did. These were a running theme throughout the whole piece, and I actually included this in my final piece. Some more experimenting with different mediums. This was again the weird foam kind of paint with a biro, and this was impossible to draw over with biro. This took me like 3-4 layers to actually get it to show up. You had to like properly scratch it in. And then ink, very abstract. And here I started experimenting on some backgrounds for my final piece. So I kind of liked, but I still really like the combination of colours of purple and yellow. Don't know why, it's just a nice colour combination. Here obviously it's not very nice, it's got very muddy because I added way too much black, but it was a good concept. There's some more background kind of experimentation with ink and acrylic. Another ink tulip close up. A very bad study of a bouquet of flowers in watercolour. The stem looks very thin, but yeah, and it's also got pencil. And here was the start of my final piece planning. So I took some photocopies of the pieces that I liked the most throughout the year, so these flowers, the tulips, the lilies, and I put it on the background of this kind of abstract thing that I'd done on the last page. So I photocopied that and cut it up in lots of different kind of compositions to see what I liked. Very abstract here, very pieced together. Here it was nice and formed, and here it was, yeah. So I think I remember the theme, obviously it was order and disorder, so for me I thought, you know, flowers are kind of quite nice, quite pretty, quite orderly. So with like a very abstract background, I thought that would clash really nicely. A lot of art, you can kind of just make it up as you go along for GCSE art, you know, just say you've got some sort of meaning behind it and there you go. More Kandinsky. I remember my teacher really wanted me to research into him because of the background. He did very whimsical, abstract pieces which matched my background kind of theme, I guess. A weird study. Another weird study of some carved photos. And then I started experimenting on MDF wood, so see how the acrylic paint would react. I also used watercolour and biro, so I wanted to see just how it worked on the MDF and if that was a good board to do my final piece on. Here are some studies of some flowers that I did. This was photos that I got from Google. Clearly I did very well with this study. Doesn't look anything like the rose, but it's quite nice. It's black and white acrylic. I actually quite like how that turned out. And these were very, very quick. Again, I ran out of time, so I thought, you know what, bang them in. Here I was testing the contrast between just having white flowers on top of very colourful backgrounds. Some more studies, some more kind of things. So I ended up including roses, tulips and lilies in my final piece. And this was the plan. So this would have been a big A1? Yeah, this was an A1 board of MDF, so I had to kind of plan out how I wanted the composition to be, and this was my final piece. Oh, I don't have much more planning in that. So this was a picture of my final piece. Oh, that's right, we had 2 final pieces. So we had the mock piece, which is this was the mock exam that we had, and then we had another one, so there's actually 2, but I ended up preferring the mock piece than I did the final piece. So this was the mock piece. And I didn't really like the background of this at the time, so I started experimenting with more backgrounds with lighter colours, less purple in there as well, more yellow. some more flowers that I wanted to include on my final piece. And then I did some more composition planning. So basically I photo scanned this on top of the background. I photo scanned or photocopied these cutout flowers on top, and then here I kind of painted it to see what it might look like. So very abstract, in the painting style of Paul Cézanne. That's kind of how I linked it. Random piece of paper, and another painted over photocopy I did. I actually quite enjoyed this. I really liked working with acrylic. I'd love to get back into it because I haven't done that in ages. And then here's the final piece. I don't know if you can see it too well, but as you can see, instead of scattering them all around before, I put them all at the bottom. And I really don't like this piece the more I look at it. I think I wanted to do something different than my first piece, but it didn't really come together the way I wanted it to. I was very lazy with the flowers at this point because I've been painting them for a year straight. So yeah, I you know, the first piece was better in my opinion. I think I still have them both upstairs. Then we have another little lily, I think, drawing, half in biro, half in pencil. I tried to get a bit darker here with my pencil, but again, it wasn't really the best. Oh. And that is it. But yeah, I hope this kind of was funny, was interesting to see my GCSE art book from 4 years ago. I don't know, I thought it'd be interesting to look through it. And I might even go back through this at some point and try and recreate some of the pieces that I did and see how I've kind of changed in my style. Obviously I do a lot of digital art now, so it'd be interesting to see how my skills have either developed or where I'm lacking now. So if you're interested in that, let me know. And also if you're interested in seeing me flip through the second GCSE art book, just let me know. I think that would be a lot of fun because I remember that was definitely my favourite art book at the time because I spent a lot more time on it. I really decorated it. It was a topic that I wanted to do rather than was given by the teacher to do. So yeah, let me know. Thank you for watching.